April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
It's years behind schedule and tens of billions of dollars over budget, but oil is now flowing through the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, which the federal government bought in 2018.
Right now, the new Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is speaking about President Trump's tariffs. Listen to what he just said.
A colossal pipeline, decades in the dreaming, finally snakes its way from Canada's oil-soaked heartland to the wild Pacific coast, cracking open Asia's vast markets like a long, sealed vault. The Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, a $34 billion beast unleashed in May 2024, promised to rewrite Canada's energy destiny, freeing its crude from the iron grip of Uncle Sam, who'd been hogging 98% of it for years. But just as the oil started flowing, a bombshell dropped. Donald Trump, eyeing a White House comeback, dangled a 10% tariff on Canadian oil and gas like a guillotine over Ottawa's economic neck. Chaos loomed until China's Rongsheng Petrochemical, a refining juggernaut with an 800,000-barrel-a-day appetite, smelled blood in the water. With the stealth of a chess grandmaster, it planted a flag in Calgary, Alberta's beating oil heart, and clinched a crude deal with Suncor Energy, Canada's heavy-hitting producer, locking in June 2025 shipments from the freshly tapped Pacific spigot. What looks like a quiet trade play might just be the opening tremor of a global energy upheaval, with Canada flexing newfound muscle far beyond its borders. Buckle up, this game's just getting started.
Yesterday marked the latest in President Trump's unprecedented series of U.S. tariffs that are designed to reshape the international trading system.
Rongsheng's North American debut is no small fry. The company, a subsidiary of Zhejiang Rongsheng Holding Group, operates one of China's largest single-train refineries and has a voracious appetite for heavy crude, precisely the type Canada's oil sands churn out. According to Reuters, Rongsheng's Calgary outpost, established in a sleek downtown tower, aims to secure long-term supply chains as China seeks to diversify away from Middle Eastern oil amid geopolitical volatility. Its first move, a multi-year contract with Suncor, will see 200,000 barrels per month shipped from Burnaby to Zhejiang, with Bloomberg reporting that initial cargoes are already booked on very large crude carriers. But Rongsheng isn't stopping there. Sources from the Globe and Mail indicate the firm is courting other Alberta heavyweights like Cenovus Energy, which produced 800,000 barrels daily in 2024, and Canadian Natural Resources Limited, alongside global players like BP and Shell with stakes in the oil sands. These deals lean on FOB terms, a savvy play that lets Rongsheng control the oil from loading, rerouting tankers to buyers in Japan or India if prices spike, a flexibility that, per S&P Global, could net them $2 to $3 per barrel in arbitrage profits.
It's a big deal. We've been waiting for this for many years. It's hard to build big pipelines, and getting this done, although it's been very expensive and very delayed, is finally something that's going to give market access to Canada, which is one of the bigger oil producers in the world.
Steering this operation is Wang Jia, a 20-year oil veteran who built PetroChina's Canadian trading arm in the 2000s, bringing deep ties and deal-making prowess. With Wang's leadership, Rongsheng is diving into Canada's energy sector with a roar, aiming to lock in 10% of TMX's capacity by 2026, industry insiders told Energy Intelligence. The Trans Mountain Expansion, TMX, is the linchpin of this shift. After tripling its capacity to 890,000 barrels per day, enough to fill 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools daily, TMX began commercial operations on May 1st, 2024, following a decade of legal battles and cost overruns that ballooned from an initial $7.4 billion estimate per CBC News. Owned by the Canadian government since its $4.5 billion purchase from Kinder Morgan in 2018, TMX endured fierce opposition. Environmentalists cited spill risks in the Salish Sea, while the Tsleil-Waututh Nation and others sued over inadequate consultation, delaying construction until a 2022 Supreme Court ruling cleared the path. Now, with 20 new storage tanks and an upgraded Westridge Marine Terminal, TMX connects Alberta's landlocked oil to Asia's refineries, which prize Canada's heavy, sour crude for its compatibility with complex plants, according to the International Energy Agency. For decades, Canada's 3.8 million barrels of daily exports were captive to U.S. Gulf Coast and Midwest refiners, often sold at a $15 per barrel discount due to pipeline bottlenecks. TMX flips that script, with early shipments already reaching South Korea's GS Caltex in August 2024, per tanker, tracking data from Kepler. Ottawa sees this as a $20 billion annual economic boost, but critics warn a single spill could devastate BC's coast, a risk the government counters with a $1.5 billion spill response fund. Trump's tariff threat lit a fire under Canada's diversification drive. In 2023, energy exports to the U.S. hit 200 billion Canadian dollars, per Statistics Canada, but a 10% levy could slash producer profits by $10 billion annually, the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers estimates. U.S. refiners, processing 3.9 million barrels of Canadian crude daily, would face a squeeze. Goldman Sachs predicts U.S. pump prices could rise 80 cents per gallon, a political third rail in an election year. Canada didn't sit idle. In June 2024, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau unveiled a $6.5 billion global markets accelerator plan, with $5 billion to help oil and gas exporters tap Asia and $1 billion for farmers hit by U.S. trade spats. Industry moved faster. Suncor's Rongsheng deal was inked weeks later. Natural gas is also in play. LNG Canada, a $40 billion project in Kitimat, BC, led by Shell and PetroChina, will ship 14 million tons annually starting late 2025, targeting Japan and China, where gas demand is up 8% yearly, per the IEA. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is pushing to revive the Energy East pipeline to supply eastern Canada and Europe, while Trudeau eyes Arctic routes for LNG to Germany. Canada's energy compass is spinning away from the U.S., with Asia's $15 trillion energy market in its sights. North America's oil ties are fraying as Canada's Asian pivot accelerates. The U.S., reliant on Canada for 60% of its crude imports, faces a reckoning. Tariffs could backfire, driving Canada to ship more to China, which imported 184,000 barrels daily in 2024, up 22% from 2023, per China customs data. U.S. refineries might turn to pricier Saudi or Venezuelan oil, hiking costs by $5 to $10 per barrel, analysts at Wood Mackenzie warn. Yet Canada and China, despite clashes over Huawei and canola, keep oil as a pragmatic lifeline. Bloomberg notes no sanctions touch crude, too vital for both. With TMX flowing and LNG Canada nearing launch, Canada's repositioning as a global energy player, not just a U.S. supplier, is underway. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, in a September 2024 speech, touted this as energy sovereignty, projecting $500 billion in export revenue by 2035. Oil's the star, but natural gas and hydro are Canada's wildcards. LNG Canada's first shipment, expected December 2025, will carry 2 million tons to Asia, with PetroChina holding a 15% stake, per Reuters. Canada's 8.6 billion cubic feet of daily gas exports, all U.S.-bound, will diversify as LNG opens Atlantic and Arctic routes by 2027, targeting Europe's post-Russia gas scramble. Meanwhile, Hydro-Quebec and Ontario Power Generation exported 42 terawatt-hours of hydropower to the U.S. in 2024, enough for 4 million homes, raking in $2 billion, per Natural Resources Canada. This trifecta positions Canada as a versatile energy titan, eyeing the Indo-Pacific's $47.9 trillion economy for a post-U.S. trade model. Canada's energy landscape is undergoing a radical transformation, a high-stakes redraw of a map once firmly anchored to its southern neighbor, Rongsheng Petrochemical's bold new hub in Calgary. The Trans Mountain expansion's steady stream of crude coursing toward Pacific ports and the imminent global thrust of LNG Canada are not just incremental steps. They're a decisive rupture from decades of U.S. dominance. For years, the United States guzzled nearly all of Canada's oil exports, but now the tides are shifting. As TMX pumps 890,000 barrels daily westward and LNG gears up to ship gas to Asia by late 2025, the U.S. faces the prospect of pricier barrels, scrambling to replace Canada's heavy crude with costlier alternatives. Meanwhile, Asia, led by China's insatiable refineries, gains a reliable long-term supplier in Canada, a nation betting its economic future on this daring pivot. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the questions loom large. Can Canada seize this moment to emerge as a true global energy leader? Will China, with its deep pockets and strategic hunger, eclipse the U.S. as Canada's top customer? And are Trump's looming tariffs the spark igniting this shift, or a wrench threatening to jam the gears? What's your take on this unfolding power play?